Oh, it's a frosty day for a Chevrolet. What's this thing? 2500 HD. 2001. Ooh, that didn't sound good. Oh, door just fell down a foot. She's a little loose. Let's see how many miles are on this pig. 145. And apparently it runs like poo when it's warm. Chevy manifold tick, the broken gas gauge, the ABS light. Well, let's bring it in and let it warm up and see what happens. Well, let's see what we have under here. The big 6.0. Looks like it's already got the new plugs and wires and a new coil. So it's got at least a new coil or a couple new coils from the looks of it. Well, actually, maybe all the coils. Yeah, it looks like all the coils are brand new. New wires anyway, so who knows if the plugs are new, probably would be my guess. All right, well, let's get some cold data just off the scan tool, see if there's any stored codes in it. And then we'll let it warm up and see what happens, because apparently it runs really poorly when it's warm. It's getting chilly out, so you guys will have to deal with the furnace running. Oh, okay, engine misfire detected, and then that's for our broken fuel gauge, so pretty common. Well, let's just look in live data here and just see what things look like. Like I say, well, it's still cold. I'm just going to take and poke through here. Actually, our best bet would be to poke through some generic data just to check, like, you know, temperature PIDs and stuff. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to poke out. I'm going to jump in some generic data. Make sure everything looks normal. The reason you don't want to use OEM data is just in case there's some kind of substituted value. The generic OBD data is loaded up, and I see an anomaly right off and right here. Bank 1 long-term fuel trim is at 25%. Long-term on bank 2 is pretty close to 0, so that's going to tell us what our problem is right there. We're running lean on one bank. Okay. And what we'll do is we'll fire it up here and we'll look at some stuff. I'll get some O2 sensors pulled up here. We want to look at 1.1. We want to look at 2.1. Wherever that little guy is, output voltage right here. So it looks like we have some O2 sensor issue going on here. We'll get them. And then let's look at our fuel trims. And we'll get coolant temp and find an engine RPM. All right. Well, let's go ahead and start it. 2111. Problems on bank 1. So let's go ahead and fire this thing up and see what stuff looks like as it warms up. Next classic manifold kick, but like I say, you can see somebody already shotgunned all the coils at it. That was an expensive guess. Let's let her warm up here and see what's working and what's not working. So you can see we're trying to compensate fuel right now on bank 1. And it's not responsive. I don't know if this reading for bank 1 sensor 2, if this is correct. You can see our bank 2 is stuck at its bias voltage. And it's trying to pull fuel away from bank 2. Yeah, it's going to have our fuel trims maxed right out here pretty soon. So it's a safe bet to say the bank 1 sensor 1 oxygen sensor is DOA. I think our downstreams are likely telling the truth. Okay, so let's just look at it like this. I guess we can get rid of our long term. Just kind of clean up our screen here. airflow is over-reporting like crazy, but it's still cold, so I'm not gonna sweat that too much. So our short-term fuel trim right now is pegged right out, running super rich, and the upstream oxygen sensor is not being responsive. The downstream, however, is saying that it's rich, but not pegged out either, so that's kind of bizarre. And then our bank 2 is trying to take away fuel. O2 sensor is stuck, you know, at its bias voltage, but the downstream is full lean. Oh, just went into open loop. That's probably a bit. I just heard the engine change tone. It said, hey, I'm broke. Let's see, fuel status. Yeah, fuel status went back into open loop. It is super rich. I can smell it, even though I've got an exhaust tube on it. Let's go ahead and shut this thing off here. Yeah, you can tell it's running super rich. I'm going to give it a couple rev up tune-ups to see if any of these O2 sensors become responsive. Looks like bank 2 sensor 1 is starting to come to life. Bank 1 sensor 2 is functional. Well, we've got some dead ones. All right, before we get asphyxiated, let's go underneath there and see if these are the OG 22-year-old O2 sensors or what's going on. Let's see, make sure it's not gonna fall on her head. Oh, she's rotted. Oh boy. Wow. See, crusty. Oh no, man, look at that, the OG. Nice. Original O2 sensors. Yuck. Yucky, yucky. Downstreams I'm not super concerned about. They don't play a huge role in fuel strategy on these older Chevys. The upstreams, however, do. And the reason for the season and the fact that they haven't been changed is because it hasn't thrown codes for them. So people only change parts that the AutoZone tells them to. Wow, dude, this thing is rotted. No brakes. Yeah, boy, you got to know a guy to get a sticker for one of these babies. Brake hose is just hanging. Welcome to New York, son. I've got the O2 sensor unplugged here on the passenger side, so it's going to be the bank 2 sensor 1. I've used the scan tool and I've turned on the O2 heater for us. We need to make sure that our heater control circuit's good. Let me get a different test light. We've got just a 194. Now the heater control is going to be the one that has the 2 wires that are the same color, and in this case they're both black on the shorter part of this triangle. So both of these 2 top, I've got the O2 heater turned on. This should light a test light if the power and ground here is good. Oops. And if my eyes can see here, let me move you over a little bit. No, you're not in the optimal viewing angle, but it's better than looking at the back of my head, I assume. So I'm going to very gingerly, that connector that's got a little bit of corrosion in here. Okay, so there, that is our O2 heater. We should be able to turn that off with the scan tool. Oops. You guys can see it, so it's off. And that's on. So we've got power and ground going to our heater. And this test light here will carry about the same amperage as an oxygen sensor heater. The front ones here are PCM controlled. But I do see a little bit of an anomaly here, and I don't know what to think of it. So somebody's poked this wire here, the green with white stripes, so that's our, I think that's our positive side of the heater control. PCM controls both the high and low side. Yeah, so look at that. Somebody poked a hole in it. It looks pretty fresh too, because it's still copper, it hasn't turned green yet. But the anomaly I see is I have both O2 sensors unplugged. Sorry about that, turn that down. So the anomaly I see, I have both O2 sensors unplugged. Bank 1 sensor 1 is biased at 450 millivolts, and bank 2 sensor 1 is at 1.1 volt. So that's kind of bizarre. I don't know why that is, and I don't think I'll find the answer to that in service data. Let's see, what we'll do is we'll take our test light on the signal wire here and see if we can pull it all the way to ground, which we should be able to. Let me focus you guys on the scan tool. I've got it highlighted there, bank 2 sensor 1. Let me come in here and find the signal wire. It's not gonna be either, whoops, let go of my test light. Hang on, get over here. It's gonna be one of these bottom 2 wires. I'll try this wire first, not that wire, and try that wire. There you go, 0 millivolts. Okay, so now to make sure that the sensor ground is good, I'm gonna take the test light, I'm just gonna jumper this across the sensor ground, not the heater ground, the sensor ground and the signal wire there. And that should also pull it to 0. So I'm just gonna very gingerly front probe here, get it in there, and there we are, 0 volts. So we have sensor ground, we have sensor signal, and we have the heater control. So that tells us that we have everything there that it needs to make this thing work. So let's just go check the other side. This one's way trickier to see. Let's stick the light there. I guess first thing first, let's see, we know that the short side of the triangle is the heater wires. I know you guys won't be able to see much, but we'll give you the play-by-play if we can. Get my hand up here. I'm gonna jumper across the heater ground and the heater power. Well, maybe. There's that one. There's that one. And our test light is lit. We should be able to turn it off. So that's off. And that's on. That's for the heater control. Okay. On the scan tool, we're at 450 millivolts-ish. I'm going to check these bottom 2 wires. One of these will be, okay, that's it. Oops. That's that wire right there. Let me focus you guys on the scan tool again here. So you can see we're at 450 millivolts there. I'm going to short it out with a test light, and we're at 0 volts. So that tells us where it wants to. PCM is good. Now I'm going to jumper the test light across the sensor ground, just like we did on the other side. And get my probes to stay in there. There's 1, and then there's 2, that sensor ground, and it's at 0 volts. Why are the bias voltages different on that one and that one? That's pretty curious. I don't know the answer to that for you folks, and I'm not going to pretend to know, but I do know that it appears that the wiring to the PCM is good. It has heater control, it has ground, and the signal wires both seem to work. I don't know. For some reason I thought open circuit voltage on these was 450 millivolts. I could be wrong. We could unplug a back one. I unplugged bank 2 sensor 2, so the rear O2. Yeah, and 450 millivolts is the open current or open circuit voltage, so that's pretty peculiar. I'm not really sure what to make of that just yet. So now that we know that, it makes me wonder if the signal wire on bank 2 sensor 1 is shorted to some sort of voltage. And that's the only thing that makes sense, because like I say, when we unplug them, they should be around 450, and give that a thought in the beginning. Let me think about this, folks. So how about this? I'm pretty sure we're gonna find some corrosion or something here. The Other ones, like I said, when we open them are 450 millivolts, which if I remember, that is correct on these older GMs. We're gonna take a regular voltmeter and we're gonna measure voltage across sensor ground. So from sensor ground, which we know is good because it has the ability to pull this signal all the way to ground. And then we're gonna see how many volts we actually have on this. Now your scan tool is only gonna read 1.1. We could short this right out to 12 volts and it's only gonna go to 1.1. So let's just see what we're looking for here. See if it gives us any kind of sense of anything. Yeah, so look at that. About 2.8 volts. So that's wrong, and it's climbing. I'm gonna turn the heater on. We're gonna see if we're, yeah, so I turn the heater on, nothing really changes. But yeah, the voltage is going up, so about 2.9 volts. So I think we're probably dealing with, there's some kind of cross voltage action going on here, because typically on an O2 sensor, you can kind of lick your finger, touch it across the signal and the ground wire, and it will pull them to ground. Now this one doesn't, so that voltage that's in there has the ability to carry a little bit of current. Not much, because we can short it with the test light, but this does not change our data pit. Well, it does barely, 100,000ths of a volt. So I can show you that on the other side probably. Let's see, you're gonna be looking at this one. So I'm gonna use lick the old pinky finger, get her a little wet right on the tip. Reach in there best you can, touch the ground, and you see how we're pulling it down to 200 millivolts, just like that. I release my finger back to 450. So I guess what I'm getting at is these circuits are very sensitive, even with a high impedance meter. Like if I measure this one, let's see, I'll measure the voltage across these. Ah, shoot, my leads are pretty short here. Let's see if I can get this up here. I think even with a high impedance meter, it's going to pull down that signal, I guess. So what I'm getting at is just that these circuits are very, very sensitive. Let's see, we're at 450 millivolts. Let me just measure across these. I'll tell you when I'm on them. Okay, I'm on it. Yeah, you see that? Even the meter pulls it down to 400 millivolts. Take the meter off, we're back to 450. So, and then the meter, you guys couldn't see it, but was reading 400 millivolts also. So we definitely have a short in this O2 sensor, in that harness. Awesome. And it's probably corrosion. So I'm pretty sure I'm right. I'm gonna do some poking along here. I gotta get out the old creaky step stool, let the furnace run, let things warm up here. These were pretty failure prone to have corrosion at the ECM. I'm just gonna bring the scan tool over here and kind of just wiggle the harness and stuff and see if anything changes. We know it's not shorted to the heater circuit, it's not shorted to ground. Like I say, I'm pretty sure we're dealing with corrosion. It's getting some stray current or some stray voltage from something, and that's it. I mean, that's what the answer is. It's on the signal wire that's picking up stray voltage. However, it can't carry current because we stick a test light on it, drops it right to zero. So that's why I feel that we're dealing with corrosion. That's my final answer, and if I'm wrong, well, we'll delete the video and pretend it never happened. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going to pull out pin number 66. That is the signal wire. Hopefully, I can get it out of here without doing any damage to anything else. The lock is right there. I was thinking about just cutting the signal wire, to see if it corrects the problem. That'll 100% tell us if we're shorted. I'm gonna sit here. I'm gonna try to depin it. I mean, I unplugged it, got the cover off. Usually these things pop right out. Let me fiddle with this. We get that unplugged, then we can plug it in, and that'll tell us for certain, 100% without beyond a shadow of a doubt. Because I've looked, pried, pulled, wiggled, and I can't get the data pin to change. So I don't know where this corrosion can be, or if I'm just chasing a ghost here. I got it. Pin 66 is now removed. We'll plug the connector back in here on the computer. Ever so gingerly. turn the key back on. And this will tell us. We gotta go back to engine data 1. We gotta find our oxygen sensor. Bingo, bango. I think 2. So there. Now it's open circuited at 450 millivolts. We 100% for certain have a problem. Let's grab our meter here. Okay, let's go, let me grab this wire here that we just unplugged from the PCM. And same thing we had down there, we are 2.8 volts. So that's that. Now, now we got a problem. Same problem we had before, it's just, for some reason I doubted myself. Just gotta find out where. It's just so bizarre because like I say, according to service data, there is no other connections between here and there. And man, I don't want to go just opening up piles of wire loom. I'm gonna do some more looking, but we definitely have a problem, as you guys can see. So that just proved it. So hopefully this all makes sense by unhooking this wire here out of the PCM. So this is essentially just the signal wire. And somewheres it's picking up stray voltage, somewheres through the harness. I hate leaving stuff like this alone and just running a bypass, even though the truck's completely rotted, will never pass inspection in like a million. Oh, sorry, it's got a brand new inspection sticker on it, but would never pass inspection in a million years. The smart thing to do would be just cut it and bypass it. But if there's a big green pus sac growing somewhere, well, it'd be kind of nice to know where, because it's going to affect other wires too. And I think this is the first time in all history I got one of these wire covers off on a GM and didn't break one of the 6 tabs. All of them came off. It's lotto ticket time. I've got our meter hooked up top. It was at 2.9. Now I'm down here fiddling with wires, and I just had like a little something happen. So let me set you guys up. I'm fiddling, oddly enough, with the wires here going this direction, which should just lead to this rear O2. Yeah, that's all they do. They just lead to the rear O2. I would have thought these would have turned the corner here and headed straight up. So let me fiddle around back here, see if I can get these voltages to change. It's kind of bizarre. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at that, boys. I'm gonna wiggle. I'm down here, I'm just behind the connector, no kidding. Okay, you see that? Of course you do. I got you super enhanced. It's time to open up some tape, old son. Because now it's down to 8.8 volts. So 850 millivolts. Yeah, it's something right here because it's going all over the place. I could see where somebody, I think did we mention earlier in the video, there's a hole right here that somebody did the hokey pokey, but that's in the heater wire. That's in the heater power wire. See what we got going on now. Yeah, the voltage is all over the place. It just spiked up, well, past 5 volts. Now it's down to nothing. But we've got to kind of keep going here. Let me unhook the O2 sensor connector. Okay, get that out of the way. We're going to open this up in here. Yeah, the voltage is still just going kind of rampant over there. There's got to be some corrosion or something. This appears to be factory tape though, I thought. That's what it looks like. That could be wrong. Sometimes the old black tape can hide a lot of sin. What the world? Because remember the end of the wire that we're hooked to, this purple wire, it should be completely open right now. It should be a completely open circuit. And right now, I'm just trying to isolate exactly where I'm wiggling. Move this whole harness. Frig me, right now it's down to 0 volts. Wait a minute, I might see some green pus. Let me move you guys. Pull this whole stinking harness open all the way up here, and this wire is perfect. You wanna know what it is? It's this wire right here. So this is our O2 heater wire. It's kind of funny. There's gotta be an open in this too. So this, let me explain this. So this is our O2 heater. This is the one that somebody had already poked. It's green with white. It has a bias voltage on it also. Okay, so this has, you know, just for circuit integrity, you know, 12 volts or whatever is on this, 5 volts. We could probably check it. And the little bit of corrosion on it, or I should say, not even really the corrosion, but where somebody had poked this, and the corrosion, there's also an open in this purple wire. Because if I touch this wire, our meter's at 0, and then if I touch this wire, it goes off the chart, it goes above 5 volts. If I touch the wire here, nothing, slide my hand down, bingo bango above 5 volts. Unbelievable. Let me get the meter here for you. I don't know if I can, hopefully we can hang this here somewhere so we can still see everything. I was gonna say, I'm filling with this wire and it's like spiking really high voltage, and I'm like right down here again. So let me see if I can't get this set up where you guys can see it. Hopefully I can get it where we can see everything. So right now I'm touching the heater wire. Well, let's see. You guys are just gonna have to believe me at some point. I'm touching the heater wire. Now I'm gonna touch the signal wire, and look at that. Let me put this, get it on a digital display to be easier for you to see. Kind of a first for me, I've barely even seen that pinhole. So my hand's touching the heater wire. I'm touching the insulation on the signal wire, just the insulation now, mind you. I'm not even touching the hole, just the insulation. Insulation above it, insulation below it. Okay, I'm carrying 5 volts through the insulation of the wire. I'm not touching anything bare. The only bare metal I'm touching is the bias voltage on the heater wire. The heater is turned off currently. I'm touching the outer insulation above the connector. Now I'm going to touch the insulation down here. Okay, we got what, 1/4 volt, 2 volts, 3 volts. Now I'm going to touch the bare spot, and there we are. We've got 10.5 volts. No kidding. Jeez. Long story short, it needs an oxygen sensor connector because it's carrying stray voltage through a light amount of corrosion through a pinhole prick that somebody put in it with a needle. And if I just take these 2 wires, let's just touch the insulated portion of these 2 wires together. So this is the insulated wire. I'm literally touching 2 pieces of insulation together. Let's see. Can you guys see that? So insulated, this is not even the opens. Insulated, touching it together. And you can see down there, we're getting 1/4 of a volt just through dirt, dust, salt dust, you know, going up the wires and migrating in that little tiny hole that somebody poked in it. So that gives you an idea. And then like if I touch the frame of the truck, we'll pull it the other way. Okay, so that's your problem, lady. Somebody was meddling. So you gotta be careful, just poking a wire like that. You wouldn't think that voltage could go up through the insulation, over top of the insulation, like up here. Like if I touch it up here, you know, not as, well, let me get the just insulation. So two non-conductive materials touching each other. Okay, I'll do it way up here just to kind of show you guys. Not too bad there. We get closer to that opening. Hold it there, not too bad. The closer we get to it, you get it just the right spot where all the dust and everything lines up. We might be wiping our fingers across it too much now. Yeah, it's starting to clean it up a little. But basically, there's voltage being passed, no current, or almost immeasurable amounts, voltage being passed through the insulation, because if we took like rubbing alcohol and we clean this all up, maybe even doing it with our fingers, just wiping the salt dust off it. Probably not, because now our fingers are all covered with schmoo. Touching it together there, nothing. Yeah, so our fingers still have, you know, some conductivity to it, because we can touch this one and then touch this one. And just through our body, we're carrying, you know, a couple volts just hanging onto these two wires, only on their insulated portions. Okay, I'm not touching any poke hole, I'm not touching the bare metal. So that's why I was sending this on a wild goose chase. I'm gonna shut the camera off, flip it to bird, and see if we can get us a connector. I hope that makes sense to you guys, what we've done. So think about this, your oxygen sensor on these has 4 wires. You have a heater, so that accounts for 2 of the wires. You got essentially the heater ground and the heater power. And then we have a signal wire that goes to the PCM, and then the signal ground, we'll call it. So, you know, sensor high and sensor low. When we unplugged it out of the computer, we've seen that completely open, which it should be. It should be just a piece of wire that goes from here to there. So we should have 0.000 volts in a perfect world. But we ended up having that 2.8, 2.9. And that's when we knew that it was shorted to another circuit. There's corrosion involved, there's something. But we also know that it was a short that can't carry current. It's a short that can't light a light bulb. It's a short that, you know, when we touch it with a test light, it goes to 0 volts. So we knew right away that we're looking for corrosion or looking for some kind of connection there that doesn't allow it to carry current, you know, not a complete short, we'll say. So, and that was really interesting, and that's a really good demonstration to show that it doesn't have to be, you know, this direct short, copper to copper short. It can be carrying voltage across salt, across anything conductive, across, you know, water. If this thing is wet, or the customer's like, oh, every time I go in the car wash, it does this. Depending on what circuit it is, some of these work on very, very low current and just voltage, we'll say. I know that's kind of oversimplifying it, but that's kind of how an O2 is. As you saw on the other side, by just, you know, licking our fingers and sticking them across there, super high resistance, we can still pull the voltage down. Or using a high impedance meter, I don't know what this one is, probably 10,000 mega ohms or whatever. Using a high impedance meter, even just checking it with your meter, takes it from 450 millivolts down to 400. So that's some things to keep in mind. So that's it. Long story short, it just needs a connector. And the reason it has a problem is because somebody did the hokey pokey. Somebody put a hole in those wires at some point, which is kind of peculiar because they're not green and pussy. To be honest with you, I was actually just gonna, you know, throw some tape over the one and, you know, ship it, just given the overall condition of the truck. But that's it. Hopefully it makes sense. If it doesn't, leave a question in the comment section. There's a ton of super smart people in the comment section that are oftentimes answering questions, and that's super helpful because there's really some, you know, really intelligent people there, and they always, you know, help me answer questions and stuff. So questions, leave them down there. Let's get some parts.